All right, guys, welcome to Foxy TV. We are doing a Foxy Hacks special this week. We've done that before. We're going to recap a couple, let you know all of the, the little hints and tricks that we've learnt along the way, make our job a lot easier, make our job more efficient, and things that have taken us like 8 years to learn. We're going to share those with you today. All right, so I might cover off some styling. We'll get some boys to come in and do some of the truck part of things. Let's start with sheets. I reckon let's start with sheets. Something that I was told early on in my property styling career was that the tag on everything except IKEA, the tag is on the right bottom side of the mattress. So if you line it up to be on the right bottom side, you're going to get short ends short and your long ends long. That is absolutely perfect for Target and Kmart. Works really well because they don't actually label top and bottom of the sheet, so it's going to save you that tiny little bit of time. Something that took me probably 7 years in and far too long to figure out, the ring shapes on a lampshade. So you have a small ring and you have a big ring, and they actually correlate with the size of the light bulb that's going in onto the lamp and the floor lamp. A small ring is a piston light bulb. It's the one that's got the two little prongs that stick out and you twist it in. The large shade is for anything that has a screw-in light bulb, and that has now saved us so much time. I can't believe it took us 7 years to figure that one out. So something else on site, we obviously work very efficiently, and whilst we have a checklist and things that we work through, and there's lots of training to try and remember everything that we possibly can, sometimes we get on site and we've forgotten something. So there tended to be a frequency in of the things that we forgot. So a sheet, towels, or a valance. They tended up being the three things that we would most regularly forget. So we came up with the idea of an emergency bag. The emergency bag has those items in it, and it is stocked, should be restocked most days, and it's kept in the truck cab because obviously the truck is always going to be on site. Works really well. I actually end up getting branded bags. I really love those branded bags, so that now we can't miss them if we ever need them. All right, so another discussion that we have frequently is about how much we can fit on a truck. Obviously, we want to use that truck space effectively, and that all comes down to the pieces that we're sending. Now, aesthetically and cohesively, it needs to work, and I'm not going to compromise on the overall end product just so it fits in the truck. But there is knowledge that we have on which pieces are going to fit a bigger and a tighter truck better. Now, what do I mean by that? So if we've got a 5-bedroom house, it's got 3 living areas and an outdoor space, that for us is going to be an extremely tight load on the truck. Now, I don't want to send, nor do we often need to send, 3 bulky coffee tables to a job of that size. If I send 3 bulky coffee tables, I don't just then have 1 sofa in each living room to consider and 2 armchairs and a buffet. I now have a really bulky coffee table to consider. So what we do, we send 1 bulky coffee table, and then I'll consider the other 2 that need to go up high. How do they go up high? They need to be light. We can't put concrete coffee tables, marble, travertine, any of those pieces up high because they're going to squash what's below. So that's where we have pieces that we can use effectively throughout the truckload to allow the boys to use and utilise that space as effectively as we can. So we've got lots of smaller pieces. Ottomans are absolutely fantastic. Little timber sets, little nesting timber sets, anything with a glass top, they also work really, really well because the glass can go up along the mattresses, and then you're just left with the frame. Now, they are also conveniently pieces that are really great to fit into a stylist car in case anything is ever damaged or forgotten, and that way we can have a perfect piece taken out on site and we're never compromising on end result. All right, so while we're on furniture, another one that took us a little while, but so when we started, we used to find mattresses on Marketplace and just get the ones that we could get because at pricing, like price effectiveness, we didn't really want to spend money on mattresses, basically. So we'd get what we could, but the impact of that is that we kept getting these really heavy, really floppy mattresses, and they aren't ideal to take up really big flights of stairs. They aren't ideal to take up tight turns, and they're also really bad to store in a warehouse. So we approached one of the local guys who's literally around the corner from us, and we asked him and said, tell us about your most, I say price effective, but let's just call it what is, your cheapest mattresses that you own. And he asked us what we use them for. So what we've done and what we do with him is actually, so there's no pillow topper, there's no comfort level to our mattresses. They have lost all the filler. So they've got all the springs, they're stacked, they look like what a mattress should. They hold up like a mattress should, so there's never going to be any sort of compression, but they are the most uncomfortable night's sleep you'll ever have because there is no comfort factor to these mattresses. Now what that does, that makes our storage in the warehouse fantastic, but it makes access on site so much better. The boys can do a double mattress on their own if they needed to. We actually have a policy that a double man lift for a double mattress because they can scratch a timber floor too easily. If need be in a warehouse though, it can be lifted with one person. Now that helps with the efficiency side of everything, which is the most important decision for us in our business. Alrighty, so now into the linen space. So for us, again, something that I found just by happen chance are the dimper bags from IKEA. They are absolutely fantastic. We leave all of our bedding quilt sets assembled, so we know exactly what is in which bag. If you've got a queen set, you literally just pull it off the shelf. You don't have to make up your sets as you're selecting. They're done when they come back from a selection. We also put all of our linen and everything for the rooms in there. The same stylist that is installing generally does those selections or is shown selections, so they know exactly what's in those bags, which means that we can see inside the bag. So at the install, everything happens effectively because we know which bag that room needs to go in. We could go to the point of labeling the bags. I found that we don't need to do that. If the bags weren't see-through, we definitely would need to, but the see-through aspect of them is fantastic. I personally think the design of the dimper bag was far more structurally effective about a year ago. They've changed their design. These ones definitely do break a lot easier if they're thrown off the truck or if they're like thrown downstairs, something like that. So there is a bit of a more of a careful approach to these bags. They're about $7.99 each, which is why there is a careful approach, because it's not a small investment for what you're achieving when you can go get a dollar bag and get the same sort of outlay. Now, other things that our team also use when they're on site to try and change things up, but also to make things feel like they're different across all different jobs, is using our linen effect. So if you go into Adairs, you will see you've got a beautiful bed made up with a beautiful quilt insert, beautiful quilt cover. But to bring the colour aspect and to bring in a different dimension, we've been using coverlets for that second overlay. They are the next size up over the bed, and I think they just look so perfect for an end finish, particularly for a high quality job.
All right, Russ, could you please explain what the walls are when you're loading a truck, what they are and what they're for?
Walls, so okay, so you got the back wall of the truck, so we always try and build up our furniture to get ourselves a nice flat wall to keep working towards. So we'll get, say, a sofa on one side, a buffet on the other, that's the same sort of width. We'll fill the middle with, say, an occasional chair, that's the same sort of width. Fill the gaps with bags, rugs, things like that, bedsides. Work our way to the top of the truck on the side to keep it all nice and straight and nice and neat, so you can run a couple of straps and then you can essentially just start again and you've got another flat wall. It helps us go faster in the truck, it helps us get more furniture on, it helps keep us safe, I guess, so nothing falls, nothing gets damaged. So yeah, it essentially just makes us go a lot quicker and a lot faster.
So some of the other things that we have learnt over time. So obviously we want to get longevity out of our furniture, and inevitably some pieces may get a small scratch, but it's not a gouge, it's a small scratch. Now we don't want to repaint everything because sometimes paints just don't match up. You repaint it and then it shows fingerprints too much. So what we've found are the wood stain pens. So these wood stain pens from Cabot's, which is from Bunnings, they have a huge range of them, all different colour stains of timber. Now these work really, really well. They're just a touch-up stain pen. I found that you have to go for one colour darker to match it up perfectly with the colour of stain. So if it was a walnut, I'd be matching it up with a black. And then when it dries, it looks really, really great. Now, we don't just use these alone. So you can use eucalyptus oil, an actual, like if you have a walnut coloured table and you actually colour it in with an a raw walnut, it's actually going to achieve the same thing as the pens. To be honest, I don't know about the longevity of that fix, but we've also found things like sanding back an oak table that started to split. If you sand it back and use your liquid nails and you put your sanding fine sands through it, it's actually going to match it up, and when you do your final touch over, your final stain, it'll look so perfect. So it's learning how to get the longevity of that stock, and that's something that we've had to very much learn over the last 7 years. We went through a period of time where we would present our alcohol bottles empty. Now that wasn't received so well. We then tried presenting them purchased brand new, and then we would find people would drink them, or they wouldn't be there at the time of collection. Now, You could write that off, but it was something that didn't sit so well because if we were taken to another install, it's just, I don't love the idea that those Moe bottles and stuff are just being taken. Now, something that came up was actually a suggestion from one of our stylists, was using cold brewed tea in some of the Scotch bottles. It looks absolutely the same. You can do water into a gin bottle. So making sure that those bottles still full, but not necessarily full of actual alcohol has been a really great difference in how the level of presentation happens and not presenting empty bottles of wine because that doesn't look so great. So that's been a very big favourite of ours. A hang-o-matic, that's always been one of our favourites. We've done that before on a different episode. Basically, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a little tape measure with a level inbuilt, and it's how we hang our artwork up on our own. The only place to buy that is on Amazon, and they ship it in over from Asia somewhere. Lastly, something that it was actually happened in conversation with our candle supplier. So Yolanda does our candles. She's a local candle supplier, and I love her range. Having discussions with Yolanda, and I was telling her how it was really frustrating that we're having to replace the candles because they kept getting used. So we'd have them lit at an open home, and they would create a beautiful smell to the property, except that would mean that we couldn't possibly put a half-burnt candle into another property. Now, when you're purchasing big, beautiful candles, they're about $55 each. And that was, again, having an impact, and it's not something we wanted to compromise on. So having a chat to Yolanda, she suggested, why don't we do them wickless? So now the wick has been taken out of all of our new candles, and we actually chopped them out of the other ones so they can't be used at an open home. If we ever wanted to go down the path of obviously offering it as a component of what we offer with our styling, we could definitely do it so that they're back in there. But for us, it's more about the actual candle in the setting presents visually and not about the smell that it creates in the property at the time. So when we get down the path of the scent of the home, obviously it needs to smell fresh, but I don't actually think bringing an artificial scent in a home is necessarily a great idea. I think you can actually be more polarising if you present a lily smell in there, which is extremely overpowering and has negative connotations to some people, rather than as a normal, fresh, clean smell. I think that's far more important. All right, so there are hacks. I would love to know if you've got any more to add to the list below. Had other stylists add on to this previously, and I very much love when someone does that, the community and the conversation. We've actually implemented some of those conversations from previous episodes, so it'd be really great to see what things you have implemented in your business that make everything run more smoothly.